Welcome to the Gita in Action podcast. My name's Radha, and I'm here with our family of seekers. We're reading through the Gita verse by verse, the Bhagavad Gita. It's 5,000-year-old ancient yogic text, and we're really diving deep into the meanings of the verses and also talking about its relevance to our lives. Because this book, is 5,000 years old, but at the same time, it's so relevant today. And we're finding that more and more as we read through the Gita together and study this text. So thank you all for being here on this journey. I do want to announce we have two spots left for Costa Rica. Still two spots left, maybe one actually. I'm technically holding one for somebody, so it might just be one spot. And if you want to join that, you can text me directly. I can send you links. I can give you information. It's also on the New Vrindavan website. But regardless, you're going to have to reach out to me because I took the rooms down so that we can just handle that directly. And then the second is the women's retreat. The women's retreat is in April 16th through 19th. If you haven't signed up for that, please sign up for that. It's going to be really just a celebration of women in spiritual life. It's going to be quite a sisterhood. And if you want to do seva for the weekend, if you want to contribute something, reach out to me. We're getting together. It's going to be like an extended girls' night out. All the proceeds go to support the widows in Vrindavan, India. So it's really, you can't lose with this retreat. It's really going to be special. So that's April 16th through the 19th. And then Costa Rica is March 14th through the 21st. Okay, those are the shout outs for the day. And let's get into this text. Shakti, do you want to start with the prayers for us?
I'd be honored. Om Jnana Timirandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurue Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kara Mayam Datati Sva Pandatikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Pitam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savad Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kancha Garungi Radhe Vrindavan Ishvari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Prananami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavembhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachayane Nirvishesha Shunyvari Paschataya Tarayane Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Uravishi Namaha Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha Jagad Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Guru Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Nice, thank you. After those prayers, Shakti, I feel like ready. Feel like any nerves that I had at the beginning, or it's just like ready for Krishna Kata. Thank you. Okay, we're going to start chapter 9, text 14 today. So, chapter 9, text 14. And there's a lot to unpack in this verse. So, we're just going to do this one verse today. Stella, when you're ready, do you want to read the verse for us?
Sure. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridha vrataha namasyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upatsate. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion.
Beautiful. Thank you. So if we remember back in the last verse, we talked about Mahatmas, these great souls. We talked about how they're so connected with Krishna that they're not even influenced by the modes anymore. So this is really like their internal disposition, the internal side of devotion, the orientation of the heart. So now in 9:14, Krishna is showing us what devotion looks like externally. So when that devotional disposition is manifested in the world. And this is important because the external always grows out of the internal. And so when the heart is centered on God, action follows naturally. You might even see this. We see this in our own lives. I know I have for sure. When I've got more and more sincere about my relationship with God and about my mission, just to serve God in this world, more opportunities have even like arranged to facilitate that. I mean, God even facilitates that. It's just like all in line. So the action naturally follows. So this verse is especially significant because it clearly endorses kīrtan. And when we say kīrtan, a lot of times we think about the congregational chanting, singing, which definitely is. But kīrtan also just means simply glorifying God. And that can happen in many ways. So it can be chanting and dancing. It can be chanting japa. It can be speaking about God. It can be discussing philosophy. It can be sharing realizations or pastimes with other devotees. So all of this falls into the broad category of kīrtan. And the Gita itself doesn't give long manuals on every spiritual path because Arjuna isn't confused about how to practice. He's confused about which path to follow. Because in the time of the Gita, everybody knew what the paths were. There wasn't a need in the Gita to explain every single path. People knew what they were. It was a spiritual culture. But the purpose of the Gita is to really point Arjuna in the right direction of what path to follow. So instead of technical detail, Krishna just repeatedly points towards Bhakti. So when we unpack the details of this verse, he first says, always chanting my glories. So when we talk about chanting God's names is very central to our practice, to our tradition. And chanting of mantras isn't unique to Bhakti. It's found across spiritual traditions, many spiritual traditions. Even like, my husband's Catholic and chants on a rosary. So the chanting it's not unique to Bhakti. And the philosophy behind this, the science behind this, is that sound carries power. Sound carries power. And there's many mantras that serve different purposes. But the most potent mantras are those that are made up of the names of God. Because God is absolute. God is absolute. And if God is absolute, then God is non-different from his name. So let that land a little bit with you. God is absolute. So God is non-different from his name. So when his name is spoken, his potency is present. And when we chant the names of God, something relational begins to happen. It's not mechanical. It's not impersonal. It becomes a loving exchange. And that's what these mantras are. They're personal calls to God, appeals for his grace. I heard somebody one time explain it as a phone call home to God. Sometimes I think of that with my bead bag. It's like a phone call home. It's the highest form of grace, right? And if we think about it, the highest forms of grace, it's not relief, it's not benefit. It's realizing God's love for us. and the learning to love him in return. This is the highest form of grace. Sometimes we get kind of stuck in material consciousness and we think that God, the biggest gift God can give us is just some relief from this misery I'm experiencing in this current moment. Yeah, I remember the prayers like that when I was a kid one time. I remember like passing out during a race and just praying to God, like, please just make me feel better. I will go to church every Sunday. Yeah. And this is reaching out to God for sure. But the highest form is realizing his love for us and learning to love him in return. This is what we really should be approaching God for, because this is what fulfills the hole in the heart. This exchange alone brings lasting spiritual happiness. And the trick to this, to the chanting, is and scripture encourages this, is repetition. So we say it over and over again. We say God's names over and over again. And not because like, God doesn't hear us the first time, but because this repetition, it deepens our contact. Each repetition, every single time you say this mantra, this God's names, it reinforces the connection. And this mantra itself is super powerful. So just saying these words, it's powerful, because we've talked about this. God's absolute, God's names, it's direct contact with God. But even how much we experience that power depends on the receptivity. Is that a word? Receptivity? How receptive our heart is. Because the mantra itself is very powerful. So it's coming. But if our heart is closed, it's not going to it's going to come to our heart, but it's not going to penetrate as deeply. So we have to chant with this devotional disposition. And it can even be imperfectly. Maybe we're not saying the mantras perfectly right. But if the heart is open, then the mantras can really sit deeply. So both those things are important. We have to chant, but we have to chant in the right mood. We have to chant in an open heart, almost like a sincere appeal, repeated again and again, like, please remember me. Please let your grace enter my heart. Please help me love. This should be our internal meditation. And this is what opens the gates of the heart. The sound comes right in, and this is when God can really enter the heart. And it's not mindless repetition. So this is why Krishna says devotees glorify him wholeheartedly and constantly. Wholeheartedly and constantly. So if you're saying God's names over and over with an open heart in this right mood, this internal disposition. Okay? Lord God, please accept me. Please engage me in your devotional service. Please help me love. These prayers. So if you just sit down and these are your prayers for 2 hours, and you're chanting God's names, I mean, this is a recipe for transformation. And that's what happens. This is how we create this inner disposition. And when devotees say, when Krishna says devotees are always chanting, he says it's always chanting. He doesn't necessarily mean that they're chanting these names 24/7. Because like we talked about, kīrtan has many forms. So even something like practical service, organizing, planning, helping others spiritually, this can even be kīrtan because it's connected to glorifying God. So we need this direct Krishna Katha, this direct, chanting God's name, setting time aside each day to just focus on our relationship with God. Okay? Conscious chanting, hearing philosophy, hearing pastimes. Because if we're only doing service without the nourishing of the consciousness, we may not be doing service in the correct mood. So that's why Bhakti has both these components, this internal nourishment through the direct forms of kīrtan. Like we're talking about japa, right? Studying philosophy, this really potent, direct contact with God. And then this service, this external engagement through service. You need both. And they really feed on each other. The service really increases your sadhana, right? Because service is just like an external expression of love for God. And then your sadhana is that relationship, that time. So we're kind of clearing out our consciousness through sadhana, and then we're engaging in service with hopefully a clearer consciousness, and the two feet on each other. Does that make sense? What do you guys think of that? Stella, you're nodding your head. Do you have some direct experience this that you want to
Oh,
share?
I mean, yeah, it's unless you're actually, serving, it in some ways it doesn't come alive as much. Like I don't know, the whole act of giving, um, I think opens the heart, and then the sadhana opens the heart, and then like I don't know, it just feels really good. I mean, my best chanting is always when I've been serving.
Mm, yes, I totally agree. Yeah, thank you. So this leads to a bigger point, or maybe not bigger, but another point. And that's that this pursuit of God is not meant to be just like a 9 to 5 endeavor. Now we understand this kind of compartmentalizing in our work life. If we dislike a job, after our emails are annoying, they're frustrating. And then if we really like our work, then we have to set up boundaries to protect ourselves from burnout. But this approach doesn't work with devotion because God isn't just one compartment of life. Sometimes you even get into this mindset. Like I used to go to church like every Sunday, and it was like church, like Sunday is church day. And then all the other days you just kind of do whatever you want, and then you go back to church on Sunday, and you ask God for forgiveness for what you did during the week that wasn't really in line. This was my mindset. This was kind of what I thought spiritual life was. Right? And this is very like compartmentalized way of thinking about our relationship with God. Because what we should understand is that God isn't just one compartment of life. He's the entire container itself. So God pervades everything. And when our orientation shifts, everything becomes a place of devotion. We talked about this so much because it's a reminder that we all need daily, in my opinion. Because it's so easy to forget. It's so easy to compartmentalize God just to another thing that we have to do. Check off the list, part of our day. Okay, I did that spiritual practice, click, it's done. But we have to start getting into this mindset that our relationship with God is so much deeper and broader than that. And this is why Krishna says devotees glorify him constantly, not because they abandon responsibility, but because their center has changed. They're just so God-centered in whatever they're doing. And we see this in Arjuna in the Gita. And this is like a perfect example right in front of us. Arjuna doesn't abandon his role after hearing the Gita. He doesn't just reject his warrior duty as mundane. He's like, okay, I'm going to just focus on my sadhana now. See ya. Instead, he develops this inclusive understanding of God's greatness. And with his consciousness spiritualized, he performs the very same actions, but now as an offering, now in a higher state of consciousness. And this is what we have to do. So our lives may still be functionally compartmentalized. We have work, we have family, we have responsibility, we have direct devotional practice. Okay, so to some degree, it's just to be practical. We have to kind of compartmentalize. But when we connect deeply with God during direct practice, like we're talking about, when we have this time during the day set aside, we have this deep connection with God during that practice. What happens is, just like Stella's saying, this consciousness permeates everything. And in that way, our whole day becomes an offering to God. Our work life becomes an offering to God. Devotion becomes the intention beneath all action. And when that center is right, every path begins to lead home. And this is this is beautiful. Like I think I've talked about my friend before who's having a hard time at work because they're just not feeling motivated. They're just not feeling motivated. And they told me, I honestly I think a part of it is kind of just that I've gotten more into my spiritual life and it's just kind of like what's the point? Which is very understandable. Like this is like normal, because all of a sudden when you start spiritual life, you realize like how many things you were doing for your ego. And when you start to when you start to not really care about that anymore, like I don't have to achieve all these things. I don't have to be so great. I don't have to make all this money. Then it's kind of like, okay, well, what's the point? But it's at that moment that happens. This is like a spiritual crossroads for us. And we could sink deeper into the ego and just say, what's the point? Okay, I don't care anymore. Or we could say, okay, I'm ready to take myself out of the center. But now I'm going to put Krishna in the center. Now I'm going to put God in the center. Now I'm going to work for God in God consciousness. I'm going to work in a way that reflects God's values. I'm going to be an example of those values at work. Right? I'm going to earn an honest living so that I can support my family, so that they can be raised in God consciousness and have the peace and the stability and the foundation to do that successfully. And it just like reorientates the way that we approach our days and our responsibilities. And in some degrees we can be even more responsible because we're responsible in a much broader sense. Not just for ourselves, our lives, our egos, but we're taking a much broader responsibility, right? Of God consciousness, for our God consciousness, for our coworkers' God consciousness, for our families' God consciousness. Yeah. And that way it becomes a direct offering. And this is what Krishna is trying to teach us in the Gita. We don't have to walk away from our families, our responsibilities. In fact, we shouldn't. It's our duty to be responsible, but do it in a mood of service to God. And in that way, the service itself connects you with God. By just acting in the world with that consciousness, your relationship with God is growing closer and closer. It's really a beautiful thing. We don't have to just like throw it out and walk away. We just have to reorientate. What do you guys think of that?
I think I'm kind of this. Good morning. I'm sorry, I just popped on here. I have funny
Yeah.
enough. You're just talking about. You said something about a special passage from the Gita. I was like, I got to get on because I have an interview today, so I'm kind of stressed out. But I'm like, I'm really kind of struggling with this because it's like I think I'm very burnt out in my work. I can't figure out a path forward. I can't find like at least a job or some hours that feels like it just doable with work life balance. But my son just has a job at the Dollar Tree, and he's really struggling with like his mental health and stuff like that, and I'm trying to be there to support him, but I feel like um I I mean, I really am. This is how I kind of have trouble keeping up with practice because I struggle so much, like materially. Like it's just me. Like everything's all on me. Like like I buy my son's groceries. I'm still supporting him, and he's 20 years old. But because he's severely sick, like he'll never be independent. But at 52, I'm like, well, it's kind of like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Like I can't
Mm,
I can't go back to school. I won't get the money to go back. I can't learn something
mm,
else. And I'm in this career already and I'm already dissatisfied, but there's no out of it. And I
mm,
think I can't even make time because I don't have any peace in my mind. And it's not that I'm being materialistic. I'm just being realistic. It's like, if something in the house
mm,
breaks, it's like up to me, like, and there's things in my house that there's mice in the basement, kitchen floor is coming up, the roof's falling in the back.
mm,
I don't have money to fix it. I live in a dilapidated house, but it's just, I don't know. It's just a really real pain of material existence. That's just like,
mm,
God, I don't even think I want to be in this world anymore. It's like,
mm,
it's too hard. And I don't know. I don't know how to switch that focus when it's day-to-day survival. Do you know what I mean? To be like, okay,
yes.
now I'm gonna, and I did do like a little bit of chanting just yesterday, just because I was just struggling with my son, and I just like, oh gosh, just chant. What else do I do? So it does come into play, but I'm just saying, like, it's just and it's getting harder now. It's getting harder now. Like I see my own sector of work like drying up. I see the struggle getting more real because of the draconian things that this happening here, at least in this system. And it's just very hard. I don't know. I'll
Yeah.
stop.
I love everything. I mean, I love your real vulnerable testimony. And I think it's so relatable. And what you're saying, which I totally hear you, is like, yeah, okay, what you're saying sounds great. But look, I got real problems in my life. I got more responsibility than I can even really handle. And now you're saying I need to make time for spiritual practice. Like I'm just trying to survive. Right? I totally hear you.
Yes.
And I think that's just so real. And I think what I can say to that is with whatever little time that you have, like say instead of going to bed at 11 o'clock every night, you can go to bed at 10:30, wake up a half hour earlier, and dedicate that half hour to sadhana. Right? Just a half hour, just 30 minutes. Say it's 20 minutes. You just say, okay, I'm going to set a bedtime. My bedtime, usually I go to bed at this time. I'm going to scale it back by a half hour. I'm going to wake up 20 minutes earlier and commit that 20 minutes to sadhana first thing in the morning.
I was doing that. It's just that, like, with my shift work, it's like it creates such
Mm,
irregularities with my circadians that sometimes, like, I can't even get up, or I'm up late, or if
sure,
I'm working 12 hours or 16 hours, I'm just like so tired that
sure,
I just don't. It's so hard to be consistent. That's the thing.
sure,
Maybe on one day that you're off, you can do it. Like on the days off, I can, and I've done that. I've got up and done the japa, and I've got up early, and I was able to do it. But it has to be like, I can't do it every single day because like the days that I
sure,
work are too like exhausting and consuming.
sure. So with the time that you can, you do your best, given your circumstance and shift work is, and that's very difficult. So I totally see. I mean, maybe it's your breaks at work. Maybe you get a 15-minute break at work or a lunch that you can spend 10 minutes or, so we have to get a little bit creative even sometimes just to say, look, this is important. This has to happen. Today's a new day. How am I going to fit this time in? And in that time, you make it as potent as possible. You remove all the distractions. You go to as quiet place as possible. You do your chanting, you do your prayers. You really try to center. And then you do your best in your life to set things up in a way to support that spiritual practice. So, some of us, just like you said, you have a lot of responsibility. You're caring for others. You're barely making it as like we try to create life. We try to create as simple of life as possible, and we try to do the best with what we have, and we try to create space, small amounts of space even for our practice, and then we pray for Krishna to help us. Krishna, I need more time in my life to be with you. And to the degree that our sinceres are to the degree that our prayers are sincere and that we're sincerely trying our best with what we have to orientate our lives around God in a way that facilitates that, He will step in and help to the degree that we're sincere about it and we're doing the best that we can with what we have. He will step in and move things in a way that you're like, wow, I could have never even imagined that this would be available for me, but now it is. This really will happen if we do our part with what we have. And it might be small changes and it might still not be perfect, but the internal drive and consciousness around it is what's important. And that might not even help you very much like in the direct moment, but just
No, it
know.
is, it's helpful. And some of these things are what you're saying. I do it like sometimes when I'm doing a double, like I can take a break and I've just taken a walk around. Like I just get out and like walk around and I'll do chanting. I'll just do it then. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
um, so I do try. It's just that what happens is like I don't know. I'm like I've been in the workforce for 37 years. I've got one kid who's 20 and I realize like I'm always going to have to support him like for the rest of my life and I'm like I don't know if I can do this another 15 years. Like I'm just I really thought about selling the house, just where could I move to cheaper, but there's always some kind of catch with everything, that's just I just it's a very hard stuck feeling And it's very hard to just kind of like make that time when it just fills up so much of the space in your mind, you know?
Okay, this is the other thing I could tell you. This is perfect. All of this time that you're spending trying to figure out material solutions for these problems, take half of that time and put it into your relationship with God. And that means that you're not constantly, your mind isn't just like percolating all of these solutions yourself, in this controller mentality. What can I do? You're saying, God, look, I'm struggling. Please help me. Please show me the way. Please reorientate my life in a way that serves you better, that brings me closer to you. Make this your sincere prayer. Make this where half of that energy is going. That when you're just like spinning your tires in material existence, and have faith that God will show you the way. Just try that on. Anytime your mind starts, you feel those tires spinning, because that's what happens in the material existence. This is the nature. Instead of getting caught in that rut, just hold up your hands.
And I've said that, I've like prayed, like, and I've also had a sense like I feel things just kind of shifting in my own life. And I've also felt like it's a great period of faith and trust. And I'm trying to just like, okay, that didn't work out and it didn't because there's a reason. So I'm just, you know what I mean? I've been trying to
Yeah.
just rest in that. And it's just hard right now. I think it's very difficult, you know?
Yeah, that doesn't, and it might even it's still going to be uncomfortable. Like it sounds like you're doing all the things, but it's still uncomfortable. And for that, sometimes it's just like patience, trust, and patience, and determination, which is actually where we're going next. But before we do, Stella, do you have some perspective on the topic?
Yeah. Zoe, I totally hear you, and it's like your life is a battle, and we're on the battlefield with Krishna and Arjuna right now. And I've been there where it's like it's so consuming to try to get through the day with all the stuff that but I find that if I see it as like the austerity of battle, and what you're saying is uncomfortable, like, but it's not even the time you set aside. It's like even in the midst of like, there's a whole thing at work and you're stressed out because you got to do this and that, it's like if you could pause and just think, wow, like I'm on this battlefield with Arjuna, like let Krishna be my chariot driver. Like it's gonna still be a battle with arrows flying, you know, and they're gonna hurt. Um, um, but even the mice are like a battalion against you. But even in those moments, like you don't have to actually be chanting or doing the regular sadhana stuff. If you could just reframe it as like you're on the battlefield with Krishna. It's an austerity. Life is an austerity, and actually, material life is designed to be that painful. And I think those of us who feel that pain, however it appears, are actually pretty blessed because you are constantly being prodded that this is not your home. This is not where you're supposed to be. This is uncomfortable. Like it's really reminding you that you're not your body. You're not this situation. All of this is your karma, but um it really it's like the verse says with great determination. And that's the thing, you're going to determined to fight your way through and get to Krishna, because that's the he's there driving your chariot, and he's and he's the goal. I don't know. I don't know if I expressed that right, but sometimes when I'm in a lot of pain and there's a lot of stuff going down and there's stresses and you're worried about your kid, believe me, we've been there big time. It's the battlefield of life, and I want to be on Krishna's chariot.
Wow, that was really beautiful. Thank you so much, Stella. That was perfect. And what it is, just like it's an internal change. It's an internal change that we're going for, just like Stella's saying. Thank you so much. So that brings us to the last point here that we're going to talk about today. And this is where we're really going to kind of zoom in on this word determination. And this is actually why respecting our time for Krishna really matters. Respecting our time for Krishna really matters. It's like we've all had that person in our life who constantly tells us how much they, love us and respect us and how important we are to them. But every time we schedule something with them, they don't show up. I remember this was like my childhood with my father. Not like once or twice, but just again and again. And at some point, their words are just feeling kind of empty. Because respect isn't proven by what we say, but it's revealed by what we honor. Same with love. You say you love me, but you're never spending any time with me. Why? And most of us would never say that we don't respect or love God. We all have faith, we have reverence, we have good intention. But if we're honest, how often do we actually treat the time we've set aside for God as optional? We say we're going to chant, we're going to study, we're going to engage in these practices, but then something else takes priority. Something else feels more urgent, more appealing, more convenient. And we say, okay, all right, I'm just going to rearrange my day. I'll do that later. And this may happen a time or two, but when this happens repeatedly, we're essentially standing God up. And not consciously, not out of disrespect, but the effect of it all is still there. So honoring our time for God, it's not about guilt. It's about integrity and relationship. And this is where this determination comes in. Krishna says these devotees endeavor with great determination. And that might seem surprising. You're like, if these Mahatmas, if their hearts are aligned, why would they even need determination? So it's like determination itself is how love expresses itself in an imperfect world. Love, it's not something that's passive. When we love someone, we show up, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncomfortable, even when we don't feel like it. I feel like just giving this class right now, I'm healing a lot of childhood wounds. Side note, because this was my dad. He doesn't show up when it's convenient, when it's uncomfortable, when he doesn't feel it. Even though he loved me, he loved me, but he just didn't have this level of determination in the relationship for whatever reason. Don't let that be us in our relationship with God. Don't let the fact that, when I think about my dad, he has all these internal demons. This is what's keeping him from showing up. Don't let our external demons keep us from showing up, because the message is the same. How it's received on the other side is an absence of relationship. As I remember as a little kid, it's received as, why doesn't dad want to hang out with me? Why doesn't he like me? Don't let that be us. And this might mean sacrifice. And not just sacrifice of time or energy, which absolutely, but often sacrifice of, feeling good. We might have to sacrifice our moods. We might not be in the mood for it. We might be, tired, exhausted, overrun. We might not be comfortable. We might want to do something else, frankly. We might want to take that phone call. We might want to scroll through Facebook. If you have time to scroll through Facebook or Instagram, we can find time for our sadhana. So, and I'm not just, I mean, this is everybody. This is all of us. This is all of us, myself included. So it's only when we move beyond chasing how something makes us feel can we start doing what is actually good for the relationship. And again, this is true in human relationships. It's not just true in our relationship with God. This is why commitment-free relationships, whether with people or with God, they never really satisfy the heart. They stay shallow. They stay unstable. Deep relationships always ask us to come out of ourselves. These relationships, they take work. They're not always fun. You're not always going to get what you want. I think right now, like today, my husband and I are going to Chicago for Christmas. Wouldn't be my first choice. That's where his family lives. I like his family. His family's great, but that wouldn't be my first choice, right? But this is what we do in relationships. We have to sacrifice. We have to do things that maybe wouldn't be our first choice, wouldn't be the most comfortable, wouldn't be the most exciting. Because in that sacrifice, this love is born. Right? It actually brings you closer. And I'm looking forward to that in going to Chicago to see my husband's family for Christmas. I know it will bring us closer. Right? And so deep devotion asks the same. We have to sacrifice. We have to, it might not always be comfortable. It might not always be what we feel like in the moment, but we have to do it anyway. So the Gita explains that this striving has two dimensions, right? The first is dedication, so offering our whole being to God, even when the mind resists, even when it wants to withhold, even when it doesn't want to give anything at all. We have to offer our whole being to God. And the second is this purification, the gradual cleaning away of these mixed desires so that our pure spiritual nature can begin to shine. So when this dedication and this purification deepen, that's when the magic happens. That's when we feel not just like spiritually inspired for a minute, but we feel connected, we feel absorbed, we feel anchored. And in this, the heart begins to experience a richness that isn't just dependent on circumstances or stimulation or mood. These are just such superficial things. It's real happiness. It's rooted, it's steady, it's anchored. Not just something that makes us feel good for a while. It's something that makes us better, steadier, more whole. So this is what happens when we choose what's good for us over what's comfortable for us in that moment. It brings actually what's comfortable for us for lifetimes. What's comfortable, and not just comfortable, but uplifting, joyful. What do you guys think of that? Where's Stella? Stella. I always like to call it, Stella always just really softens them. I feel like I get this message. Sometimes this can be kind of like brass, and then Stella comes and just softens it. So Stella, can you soften for us here?
Um, I mean, austerity is a given. I mean, we have to see it as a blessing. I don't know. I want to hear from others. I want to
All
hear from
right,
others.
let's see. Shakti, you've been quiet. What's on your mind this class?
What's on my mind? Yeah, a lot going on in my life. There's I started a new job teaching reformer Pilates. And my son came home 2 days ago, and then I was here in the morning and I heard him moaning. I was like, what's happening? So I kind of, I try to, not be that, he's 19, so I don't want to. Then I went down there and he was burning up. He had a migraine. It was like horrible. And so he's been sick for the last at least day and a half ish. And so I've sort of nothing in my life is really kind of when he's here, it's just all about him. Even though he's 19, like he was laying on the couch and I just laid my head like next to his head just so I could be touching him. I was gonna do something. He said, "No, I just want my mom to lay here with me."
Aww.
And so yeah, he hasn't been feeling well. And I guess I have a lot on my mind.
Mm.
I feel like I can't make sense, like separate it and make sense of how to talk about it.
Hmm. Yeah. And what do you do when you have a lot on your mind?
Um, I chant.
Hmm.
I like yesterday I went downstairs. I cleaned my area where I have Tulsi Devi, and I cleaned her, make sure she had her. Then we hit. I have like a grow light. It's like I'm growing marijuana in my basement. And so just making sure she's, healthy, and I got a humidifier and a hydrometer to make sure she's good. And then I wanted to change Radha and Krishna and go to Nitai's clothes for the holiday. So I put them in some new beautiful outfits for the holiday season. And that always that brings me, I feel like Krishna is sitting next to me when I'm doing that.
Hmm.
I feel like he's like, that is a good outfit, Shakti. He's like, oh yeah, so nice. Look how pretty you're making them. And then I'll spend some time with them after the call this morning. And then I just like today will be a morning where I talk to Krishna and Radha and go to Nitai. I'll bring flowers and I'll serve them some breakfast. And I really feel like I just need to help. I need them to help me clarify what's like, just I don't feel like I have a solid thought,
Hmm.
you and with my service in Hamilton that I'm supposed to be doing, um, there's just a lot of challenges with that. And so I feel really grateful. Like, I mean, with the two retreats coming up, soon. In February, I'm going, as you know, to New Vrindavan for the month, to stay in the ashram. And I feel like it can't come at a better time. Like, I feel
Hmm.
like I really, those things are so important for my sadhana,
Hmm.
to be in the temple
Hmm.
24/7,
Hmm.
just doing temple business and serving, and
Hmm.
not like cleaning my house, or not that my house, you know what I mean? I just need, I feel like I need that right now. So it's
Hmm.
like, it can't come at a better time
Hmm.
to help me
Yeah.
make sense of it.
Yeah. Immerse yourself in Krishna, in God's service.
Yeah. So that's what I do.
Doing all the right things. Doing all the right things. Even though in the moment it might not even feel comfortable, or your mind still might feel just too full, or just keep trying. We just keep trying. Beautiful. Thank you, Shakti. Thank you. Aaron, what do you have for us?
Well,
Oh,
Shakti,
you're in. Oh, there you go.
I hope you share your holiday dresses or outfits with us in the group chat. Um, I was just thinking that thinking about what Zoe was sharing, and just like finding the time. I think something that I've always really appreciated is wherever I've been with like the number of rounds that I was chanting at that time, I have always like been so encouraged. Like everyone that I've crossed paths with, when I was chanting 4 rounds, like that's amazing, keep it up, like such encouragement. It was never like in my experience, and I know it's probably not everyone's, but like I never had anyone be like, oh, you should do more, oh, you should do like you know yeah, just more. And um I was even thinking like one of the very first classes I took, um, it was online, and it was like the basics of Bhakti or something like that with Dayal Garanga, um, at the Bhakti Center. And somebody was sharing that like they don't have time in their schedule, like, but what if they like chanted while they ate breakfast? And he was just like, without skipping a beat, he was just like, that sounds like the best breakfast, the best thing you could do at breakfast,
Mm,
and I feel like for somebody, like for a group of new people, I feel like it was such a perfect answer.
mm,
And I could see, for like somebody else in their practice where it's like, okay, no, you need to like drop the spoon, like
mhm,
focus, don't do anything else, stop multitasking. But like at the same time, I just feel like um the guidance, I feel like this is common where you'll read like Prabhupada says one thing to one disciple and a different thing to a different disciple. And
mm,
um it's so beautiful that like I feel like people whose hearts are really open and are really practicing this, like they're really able to meet people exactly where they are, and like
mm.
and really come with like that like encouragement. And yeah, I feel like it's always been like a blessing for me to like to not be so like, no, this is what you should be doing, or like you shouldn't be doing it
Mm,
this way and you should be doing it that way. And I know like my chanting could always improve, and I could definitely do more rounds seated, but I feel like that's my own, kind of like struggle and battle with japa, but not necessarily like an external pressure that I feel from others, which I
mm.
think is so helpful and has gotten me to the point of like the extent of where I'm practicing now, like because of that lack of judgment and that encouragement.
Yeah. Wow. Exactly. I mean, that's it. And I think what a lot of us will realize too is when we start getting more and more sincere and really craving this time, like not just like, okay, I have to put this time in, but like I want this time, like it becomes like a very sincere desire. We start seeing pockets of our day that we can do it actually pretty easily. Like all of us drive, right? All of us drive a car. Like what are we listening to when we're driving a car? Heck, that we can even be that could be we could be praying when we're driving. That's time that all of us have that most of us do every day. And just like that, preparing meals. Maybe it takes 5 minutes to make your morning breakfast. Okay, what are you listening to, or are you chanting, or just find these pockets of time and then just fold it into your day. You're brushing your teeth. You're doing your hair. What's on? Just putting a class on in these kind of mundane, what it's normally quiet pockets. And what you see is that the more you do that, then the more you want to do that. Krishna really reciprocates. And then all of a sudden things just start opening up so that you do have more time and more peace. I mean, Krishna does that when he sees this sincere intention. Really nice. Thank you. Thanks, Aaron. Katie.
Hi, Krishna. Well, those were some really good segues because um yeah, I was thinking about that's such a nice point about the encouragement. And I've also heard like do what you can, what fits into your life at this time, and don't feel bad about having to lessen something as something else increases. And those things will fluctuate again. So I also agree that it's been really handy from like senior devotees or teachers to hear that encouragement, that like a little bit goes a long way, like exercise, like little 5 minutes a day goes a really long way or whatever. And then back also about the austerities. It's so true. Like I remember a while ago, my teacher saying, at one point some years ago, he kind of challenged himself to just only listen to kirtan music, like just not like seek out any other type of music. And it was like a purposeful austerity. And so I've kind of tried that. And and it's really nice. It doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, this is like a punishment or like a missing out. Um, so I think the rewards come, and sometimes it just takes some time. And as well with like TV, or like you're saying, like use these times, like I used to use my commute when I'm not carpooling to like stew and like release anger and like think about stuff. And I just stopped. I just started listening to Krishna podcasts instead. And it's so much better. So like you said, it's like, oh, it's an austerity. I'm going to stop like venting, and I'm going to stop like somewhat, and I'm going to stop like some of the TV and try to do podcasts but then really what happens is I'm, like you said, I'm a lot happier. And I crave those things more. Um, yeah. And this is kind of a silly side note, but I always like growing up and also being a musician, like, most of my life, like I'd be kind of embarrassed, like in college, people are like, what kind of music do you like? I'm like, I don't know. Free music. I don't have money to buy music that my friends make me CDs. I don't know. And it would be kind of embarrassing. And like now I'm just like, I don't like if someone's like, oh, do you know this song? I'm like, no. Like there's a lot of like popular culture or music stuff. And I'm just not embarrassed anymore to have no idea what people are talking about. And that's really, really nice. And it's very encouraging to hear our senior teachers like saying like, yeah, I struggled too with austerities, but it is, the benefit comes, and it is hard, and so I feel that from Zoe as well, like, but yeah, like we're all here to encourage each other, and Krishna is that person behind it all. So yeah, Haribol.
Yeah, so nice. It's perfect. Love everything you said. Thank you, Katie.
Thanks.
So, do you have any concluding remarks for us? Your share was kind of like the climax of our time together today. If you're still able to talk. Okay, so if not, we'll just close out here.
Sorry, I can't. I
Yeah.
try to get something to work on my phone and it doesn't work. Okay. No, I think that yeah, I think the struggle is just it's real for us all, and it's hard to, I mean, I guess it's hard to find that balance, but I think the overwhelming thread that seems to be is just, and I think we all struggle with this as we get into our spiritual lives. And I hear that, like with Aaron saying that, how it's just it kind of takes you away from certain things, and that's hard in and of itself, because once you're there, you can't go back. You know what I mean? Everything just your perception of everything is just completely forever changed, and it's even harder to fall on like old excuses and things like that. But I think the overlapping thing was just that, just finding that moment or that time, or even if it's just whatever it is. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's all.
Exactly. Yeah. Share one last thing. When I had my baby a year ago, all my teachers are like, don't worry about chanting. It's going to be hard. I actually found it easier because I was up all night feeding her. I was just chanting the whole time I was feeding her. I didn't get to hold my beads because I was nursing my baby, but it was like they'd ask me, I'm like, no, actually, I chant more than ever. Because it's like
Does that
you
make for a
figure,
Joppa baby?
yeah, Joppa baby. She's a Joppa
It's a new
baby.
thing. You could
I
sell
mean,
it. You could sell the other New Brindavan.
sometimes you can't hold your beads. And do I know if I chanted 16 rounds? I don't know. I chant most of the night, so I think so. But it's like sometimes we do what we can, and we feel closer to God than ever if we're doing it in that consciousness, like a beggar, like a servant. That's really what we're trying to cultivate here. So. Yeah, this the last thing this verse mentions is bowing down, which is another limb of devotion. So in this one verse, he touches several of the 9 limbs of bhakti. And in this way, the picture is complete. Okay, we talked about internally, within the last verse, internally, we're steady, of undiverted consciousness. And then externally, we're active, we're engaging in this loving service. This is the life of a bhakta. We're steady on the inside, we're active on the outside, and we're centered on God in both. That's what we're doing here. So thank you all so much for being here. I'm so grateful for you all and being on this journey together. It's really, it's been incredible and transformational for me. So thank you all. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.